Hello everybody, Mateo White here, back at it again with another wonderful video diving into the beautiful world of narcissism. Today we're going to be talking about the narcissist's health. Is the narcissist healthy? No! The narcissist's health is probably the most volatile part of their entire being. You see, narcissists' cruelty, sadism, manipulation, and false reality doesn't just extend to the victims, it extends to themselves too. They are their own worst harasser in a lot of ways. So let's just go over a few examples of this. So first of all, every last single narcissist I have ever known, and I mean pretty much every last single one of them, at least the ones that were 30, 40, 50, 60 years old, had severe health issues. I don't think there's a single narcissist I've ever known or heard of that didn't have either a very severe physical or mental health issue. Which, it's a given that they have mental health issues, but you get my point. Be it from their poor hygiene, poor eating habits, stress, drug use, it could be anything. So let's go through all of that stuff. So let's start with their hygiene. How is a narcissist's hygiene? Well, it actually really depends. Some covert narcissists make it a point to indulge their mask to an extent where they are almost exclusively focused on their own hygiene and their own body. Maybe their body looks really nice. Maybe they trim all their nails every day, brush their teeth perfectly, manicure themselves in every way. However, that is actually a problem in itself, because it's just not psychologically healthy to constantly be focusing on your hygiene and your presentation like that. So that's a level of stress that is actually very unhealthy. But I think this is actually less common. Most narcissists generally tend to do this only for a temporary time to lure a victim or a mark in, and then they switch back to their old disgusting ways. However, this is just a very specific subtype of narcissist I'm talking about, the covert narcissist in specific instances. Other narcissists go the complete opposite route. A lot of narcissists think that they are invincible, untouchable by God, or they don't even consider the possibility that something could be dirty or gross or wrong with them, or they literally just don't have the knowledge, they're just ignorant, and they're disgusting. Their teeth are rotting out of their skull and have holes in it and are black and yellow and just horrendous to look at because they just won't stop doing gross, horrible things with their mouth. One narcissist famously, or I guess famously just to me, told me that they didn't even know it was a problem at 60 years old that they don't brush their teeth. They were surprised to hear that infection can hurt you severely. That's the kind of ignorance I'm talking about here. It's not necessarily malicious in this instance. They just don't know any better, or they just really don't care, and don't have the capacity to care. Some narcissists get off on being really unhealthy, obese, smelling really bad, farting constantly. It sounds ridiculous, but that's how some of them are. So their hygiene, either really bad, or they're putting on an exhausting mask. Now let's focus on their dietary health. How is their dietary health? Even worse. Their dietary health is the worst part of all of this, actually. Narcissists tend to make absolutely horrible eating decisions. Now, there is a small subset of narcissists that actually are like really healthy eaters, and they make a huge point out of eating really healthy, and they're, blah, 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 whatever. They're cool, quote unquote, I guess. But in reality, most of them are not like that. I have had the displeasure of watching some of these narcissists go at their food like a carnivore from thousands of years ago, and they often binge eat. Yeah, they binge eat. They'll get emotional about something. They want to distract themselves with anything else but their miserable existence. So they'll go into the freezer, pull out a tub of ice cream, and start chowing down. Probably finishing either half or the entire thing. Then they'll go and pull out some leftover fried chicken from the fridge, douse it in some delicious sauce, eat 3 or 4 drumsticks. And then they're like, you know what? I think I need a bowl of top ramen. So they'll go make a bowl of ramen, eat it up with a bunch of sauce and additives. And then they'll be like, you know what? I want a donut. They'll eat a donut, and then they'll eat a bowl of cereal. And then maybe then, when they feel like they're about to puke everywhere, they'll go to bed and decide to stop eating. Yeah, it's that bad. I'm not exaggerating at all. Oftentimes, narcissists will consume like 3,000 or 4,000 milligrams of sodium in one single meal, several times a day. They just don't care. They think they're above the consequence of eating bad, and oftentimes they end up really, really obese, with high blood pressure and diabetes, if not far worse. Alright, what about their organ health? Their actual organs, their intestines. Yeah, it's bad too. Oftentimes, narcissists have IBS because they're so stressed out, and they have so much unresolved trauma, which they've turned into something malicious. Their guts are just freaking out all the time. And to put it bluntly, defecating constantly. In really disproportionate amounts, with really horrible toilet paper usage. I've actually experienced some IBS myself. Not fun, but narcissists have that on top of everything else. On top of everything else I'm about to discuss. How is their heart health? Absolutely awful. Just like everything else. If I mention something here, it's going to be awful. I feel bad for a narcissist's heart because it gets taken advantage of so negatively and so much. It's a miracle some narcissists are even alive. They pump their body full of substances like methamphetamine, marijuana, sometimes even like ecstasy and stuff like that, constantly, which makes their body, especially their heart, strain so much it can't keep up with that load of drugs. Mixed with all the food they're eating, mixed with all the narcissistic rage that just pumps cortisol into their body like nothing else. It's so incredibly unhealthy, their heart. And many of them will end up with heart disease. That's not an opinion, that's an objective fact. I think there was a study done that suggested that narcissists end up almost always having heart issues in the end. Not to mention, many of them don't respect the limits of things like caffeine, so they turn a harmless energy drink or two into drinking like 6 or 7 in a day. I knew one narcissist who was just absolutely insufferable, who drank so many energy drinks every day, I'm surprised he didn't have a heart attack on the spot. He drank like 7 or 8 of them a night. And he didn't see any problem with it, and he thought it was awesome. That is the level of ignorance you're dealing with. Alright, how is the narcissist's mental health? It's pathetic. They are constantly stuck in a cycle of self-pity, hatred, rage, depression, and just desperately trying to keep up the appearances of their mask. It's a pathetic sight. They keep doing horrible things to themselves because they just refuse to grow a brain and grow a spine. But it's just so hard to watch them have all these problems, and it just never stops. And that's basically the nature of the disorder itself. How is their sleep hygiene? It's like a horror movie. Yes, you heard me correctly, it's a horror movie. You see, a lot of narcissists, not all of them, but a lot of them, have complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and that makes sleep almost impossible for a lot of people, but not just impossible, their dreams are horrific. They often, every single night, will have a just chilling, disturbing nightmare about death or things like death, and it's always very vivid. I've had a narcissist describe this to me as just being in hell, feeling like they just live in hell. So they often have terrible sleep hygiene, are exhausted, dark circles around the eyes, and they often end up having to depend forever on things that are really heavy like Ambien to sleep at all. So I'm not going to go on anymore because I think you get the idea. If a narcissist is alive and still a narcissist, you can absolutely guarantee that most of their life is bad and their health is bad. Yes, there's some narcissists that may achieve massive success because of their ability to crush other people, but that doesn't mean they're happy and that doesn't mean they're healthy. So anyway, that's all. See ya.